Yay. Okay.
Yay, yay. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Daily Huddle. It's your Friday morning with Giovanni Gonzalez and myself, Sir Al-Katan. We are the co-founders of the Daily Huddle and also co-hosts today. I want to start with a question to Mr. Kurt. Kurt, good morning.
Good morning. Thank you.
Kurt, how can you tell if someone is an entrepreneur?
You can tell someone is an entrepreneur because they are in the moment.
Don't worry, they'll just tell you.
You'll just tell me?
They'll just tell you.
Okay.
They just tell you.
Oh, they just tell you an answer.
Yeah, they can't. They everywhere they go. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm an entrepreneur.
Yeah, there you go.
And this is in honor of this conversation that Gio is going to have today. Everybody wants to make this transition from employee to entrepreneur. And there are many pitfalls. And today we're going to cover three things, three critical areas that you must master to make that transition from employee to entrepreneur. So let's roll the video.
My God, Sorrel. That was a great joke, Sorrel. In lieu of terrible jokes, Sorrel, you know why I'm scared of the calendar?
Oh my God, I don't know, Gio. Why?
Because the days are numbered.
Oh, their days are numbered.
I know it's terrible.
Oh my God, they're terrible. I love them. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Rashida, what time is it? And who will you hug today?
The time is now. And who I'm going to hug today? Oh, I'm going to hug my girlfriend that we are traveling out in Curacao. And she's here, right here with me. So I'm going to hug Elizabeth.
Awesome. Awesome. Good morning, Tara Heaton. Welcome to the Daily Huddle. Where are you and what are you grateful for?
Good morning. Well, where am I? I am right here, right now, and nowhere else. And today I am grateful for travel.
Planes, trains, and automobiles, and we're going some places, right?
That's right.
Welcome, Taryn. Good morning. Peter James, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing great, guys. I'm doing great. Thanks for asking. Hope everybody's doing okay. Good morning.
Good morning. And you are the way you say you are. And how are you?
I am fantastic today.
And that's what
I believe it and I speak it.
And that's the way it goes.
All right.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for listening, whether you're here in the studio with us or listening from the perch of your seat on the beach. Tara. I welcome you. Giovanni Gonzalez is one who's dedicated his entire life to understanding the behavior of human being in transition, specifically the transition from employee to entrepreneur. And he's not bringing us theory or tips and tools. He's bringing us today from the trenches, someone who's made the transition at least once, if not more than once, to really work with us and create the three critical things we must know and master to successfully transition from employee to entrepreneur. He's the CEO of Mindful Performance Blueprint. Mindful Performance Blueprint is a company dedicated to creating a new paradigm for what it is to be a human being and what it is to express leadership in the world. Giovanni's dedicated his entire life to this cause. And the beneficiaries of this cause are you, the listeners. Gio, thank you for being generous. Thank you for being here. And let's dig into these three critical areas to master when making a transition to from employee to entrepreneur.
Yes, thank you, Sorrel. Thank you for the incredible introduction. I feel big that I gotta live up to the introduction. Thank you, Sorrel. Thank you so much. So I love this conversation. I love this topic. It's very close to my heart, particularly because I have, I guess, like many people who are actually looking into this conversation. Like it's real for them. I'm making the transition from employee to entrepreneur. It's a really painful transition, right? Because I remember a time when whether I felt good or not, whether things were going well or not, whether things were okay at home or not, whether the marketplace had its upside downs or not, I was getting a paycheck, right? and that's a really cool and comfortable place to be in. And that is easy to take for granted when in the context of an employee. When I was an employee, it was so juicy, Sorrel. It was so easy to complain about life and to complain about the environment and to complain about my boss and to complain about the company and to complain about the customers and to complain. It was just so easy and it didn't matter. It didn't matter if I complained or not. It was so easy not to be responsible for my speaking because I was going to get a paycheck anyway, and so it was, so for me, I'm not speaking to you guys, right? I'm not speaking about you. I'm just calling myself out here, right? So for me, being an employee it was always this dance between doing the most that I can, or the least that I can, so I don't get fired, right? Or something, right? And not necessarily really look at what are the areas where the company has holes. Like I was just kind of responsible for myself and my position, and I was gonna rock the boat if it was convenient for me, and I was not gonna rock the boat if that was gonna get me fired or if it was gonna get me in a difficult position. And so it was a mix of all that, right? I was gonna be on time if I was gonna be in trouble, but if I'm not gonna get in trouble, then I'm not gonna be on time. So being responsible for everything was definitely not the context in which I lived as an employee. And so whenever I started looking at making the transition from employee to entrepreneur, everything that was using me to be a good employee was no longer sufficient to be a good entrepreneur. And now that it's been a little bit over 15 years now since for me, I made the transition in many ways. And now I do a lot of coaching for folks who are making the transition or for folks who are actually growing a business. Now I can tell that there's these three patterns that are critical to take a look at to make the transition, right? So the first one is time management. Time management is a really critical one. And so what do I mean by that? What I mean by that is that when I was an employee, the company, the boss, there was a time to get in and definitely a time to get out, or an appropriate time to leave for the rest of the day, to leave home. So I'm going to say the example of 9 to 5, right? Or 8 to 6. So the company used to tell me what time to get in and what time I could go home, or how many days I had off, right? And so when I make the transition, or when to have lunch and when to have a break, when it was appropriate. So when I make the transition from employee to entrepreneur, all of that framework was gone. And in some ways, at least for me, I felt free. Oh my God. I don't have to get up early anymore. I can call Sorrel at 9 in the morning and talk to him until 10 if I want to. I can call my mom. I can call my best friend. I can call Tara. What is Tara doing? Let's have breakfast, Tara. I haven't talked to Tara in so long. We need some me time. We need to, I'm free now, you see. And then because entrepreneurs are hopeful in nature, then as an entrepreneur, it's like, oh, well, it's going to work out. The money's going to come. The clients are going to come. Things are going to come. So let me just hang out with Tara for a second. Let me call Peter. So this frame of time management is gone out the window. And so there's no longer a fictitious boss, if you will. There's no longer a boss telling you, no, you got to be here at 8. Otherwise, 3 times, I'm going to write you. Right. So what I see, Sorrel, in making the transition from employee to entrepreneur is that you no longer have this time constraints, but that's the biggest pitfall. As an entrepreneur, you must have a really rigorous relationship with your calendar. What time you start, what time you have your breaks, what time you have your lunch, what time you end for the rest of the day. You got to have a very rigorous, very rigorous relationship with the calendar, because now there is no one coming to give you a paycheck. Your clients don't want to give you a paycheck. First of all, they don't owe you a paycheck, and they don't want to give you a paycheck. They only want to give it to you when you provide enough value for them, where they are grateful for the service you provide or the product you provide with the integrity that you provide. And it's only then when they're like, oh, I can't wait to pay you. Otherwise there are, your clients as an entrepreneur, your clients are also on budget constraints. They're also on budget constraints. So they're going to move the paycheck, your paycheck, they're going to move it until the end of the month. They're going to find a way to continue to move paying you so that they don't go out of business too. Right? So there is this really important relationship, really important relationship with time. And I've noticed that those who don't make that transition, Sorrel, of having a really rigorous relationship with time, they never quite get their business to the next level. They never do. Or they never quite are able to make it as an entrepreneur. They got to go back to being inside of a frame of an employee. Now, I truly believe that being an entrepreneur and being an employee, there's no one better than the other one. I genuinely believe that. The conversation, the social conversation is like, you can live your life on your terms if you're an entrepreneur. That's not true. Whoever said that is not present to what people have to go through, right? So anyway, so I want to stop there. Sorrel, anything you want to add there, Sorrel?
Yeah, there's something that I'm hearing for myself, having gone through the transition myself, Gio. Having made the transition isn't a function of my current circumstances, meaning I no longer have a job, I now work for myself. I think what you're pointing to is that the transition itself has to happen up here. It's almost as if, not almost as if, it was like this for me. I don't have a boss anymore. I can do whatever I want. And if I'm hearing you correctly, to make the transition to being an entrepreneur simply so I won't have a boss doesn't work. In fact, I need to be an even tougher boss on myself when I make the transition. So I think the opportunity of the conversation this morning is for all of us who are already, quote unquote, entrepreneur, to actually check myself and see, have I actually made the transition from employee to entrepreneur, or am I sitting here as an entrepreneur, but with an employee's mindset?
If you will. Yes.
Yeah.
And for me, Sorrel, at this point, I see, I'm going to make this casual relationship about the boss thing. Everything is my boss. You are my boss, Sorrel. My relationship with Tara is my boss. My time is my boss. My clients are my boss. My processes, my procedures, they are all my boss, because they all require a particular integrity. Every relationship I have with every process requires a particular integrity so that we can win the game of business. So in some degree now, everything became my boss, if you will. Now I'm not just responding to one human being. I'm responding to processes. I'm responding to clients. I'm responding to a lot of things. And so as an employee, you have a boss. As an entrepreneur, now you are accountable to everything. So you could say you're a boss, everything is your boss. Or another way of saying it is you're accountable for everything, for the processes, for the relationships, for the employees, you're accountable. Liz is my boss. Gosh, is she my boss for real? So everybody, Nicole, everybody I work with, now it's an accountability issue. Okay, so I'm going to go to the next one, Sorrel. Right, in this context, right, of employee to entrepreneur. The next one is that as one makes the mindset transition, if you will, from employee to entrepreneur, then the entrepreneur has got to have a really good relationship. And this is where a coach comes into place a lot of times, a really good relationship with distractions. Distractions cost a lot of money, a lot. And there are I like to see it as two types of distractions, yeah? There is the internal distractions, and then there's the external distractions, right? And it's important to notice it that way, or it was important for me at least to notice it that way. I have internal distractions, right? I have my mind or my emotions. Sometimes I get caught up with something, and then today I don't feel like doing something. Yeah, well, that doesn't fly anymore as an entrepreneur. I don't feel like doing something, doesn't really fly. It's going to impact your paycheck down the road. Or I'm not feeling strong today. Okay, that's a distraction. Oh, I don't feel like something around emotions, or I feel anxious, or I feel all these things. Those are all distractions. Is it possible to go to work with anxiety? Yes, it's possible. At least for the entrepreneur, it's possible. For the employee, it's not. You got to call. You got to call and say, hey, I'm not really feeling strong today. I'm not going to come in. For the entrepreneur, and that's okay. You have days for that. For the entrepreneur, okay, I'm not feeling strong. I'm not going to work today, because there's no one telling you what to do. But you don't. You can stay home. You can do whatever you want. But very soon, unless you have already a system in place, but very soon I will have to confront that my internal distractions are not keeping momentum in the business. So that's the internal distractions. And I'm not minimizing the real pain that some people are going through. I'm just talking about, you know what I mean? Anyway, then there are the outside distractions, the external distractions, and those are everywhere now. It's not only TV, it's not only Netflix, it's not only Facebook, it's not only the likes, cierto? How many likes did I get? Or, anything. Those are all external distractions, but now it's everywhere. Now everywhere an entrepreneur is dealing with distractions, but also how organized one is. It's not only the TV, the screen time, etc. But also a big external distraction is how organized you are in your business. So I've noticed, and when I go to clients and I'm visiting them, and I go into their world, into their personal space, when their personal space is massively unorganized, then it becomes a distraction for them also. So that's something to make a transition. That's a critical aspect to make a transition. How do I try to organize my internal world? That's a critical one. Or my spaces. It could look unorganized to somebody, but it really has to be organized to you. Now, it's something I learned from my Asian friends. I have some Asian friends around. They're really organized. And I always used to tell them, hey, no. When you look at my desk, I understand my mess. And they used to say to me, if I don't understand your mess, you don't understand your mess. Like, don't kid yourself, right? So I love my Asian friends. So I want to stop there. What do you hear, Sorrel?
Gio, I'm a stickler for organization as well, but I totally get you. You know, I'm fond of saying, yeah, my desk is messy, but I know where everything is. Please do not fix my desk because I won't be able to find anything anymore. And the more I've said that across the years, the more I've discovered for myself that it's just a reason for me to not take responsibility for what you're pointing to, being organized and taking advantage of the fact that when I'm organized, when the things around me are organized, it actually leaves space in my mind for me to think clearly. So I can't overemphasize that.
Yeah, it gives us space. It really gives us space for creativity. Every time I'm gonna go lead, I look at my kitchen, I look at my car, I look at place where can I organize? You know, I need to go organize something. I need to create some space, even though it has nothing to do. You know, I go to a client's space. It has nothing to do with my car. Like really, what it has to do with anything? But I gotta find a way to organize something, create something of an organization so that I'm free to create. So I've noticed that absent of making those transitions, entrepreneurs are kind of bumping up into something constantly. And I'm not saying you gotta be a crazy person organized. No, I'm just saying make the transition, right? I hope that makes sense. And then the last one is, I wanna combine the last two. I mentioned it at the beginning, but I'm gonna combine them. As an entrepreneur, now you're responsible for all of it. There is no one to blame. You can't blame the government. You can't blame the clients. You can't blame the political affiliation. You cannot blame your employees. You cannot blame the weather. You cannot blame anybody. Full responsibility for all of it. And what do I mean by that? As in a good transition from employee to entrepreneur, it is true that life is happening and it is not fair for anyone and things are always changing. It's all true. It's like a hurricane. Life is a hurricane. The marketplace is a hurricane. Chaos is around the corner. But as an entrepreneur, the more you can be at peace inside, the more you can be the eye of the hurricane, always at peace, being responsible for your emotions constantly, the more you have power as an employee, as an entrepreneur. And I want to combine that with the constant activities that make money. As an entrepreneur, you've got to find inside of that relationship with one's calendar, constantly have time for prospecting. Constantly, either you're prospecting all the time, every day, or you have someone in your business who's doing it every day. Every day, or there's an ad somewhere running that every day is doing the prospecting. Absent of having someone, you or an ad somewhere, creating prospects every day, the transition for employee doesn't happen. And it's quite painful. Okay, so I'm going to stop there, Sorrel. Those are the three transitions from employee to entrepreneur.
Well, let's summarize them and then let's open it up for questions, right? So 3 key areas to master as someone who's making the transition from employee to entrepreneur. And don't kid yourself. You may have been an entrepreneur for 10 years and have not made the transition yet. That's what I'm discovering, right? So the first is 1, manage your time. Make your calendar your boss. Make everything around you your boss. 2, eliminate all distractions, both internally and externally. And it's a good thing maybe to practice, just like you're pointing to, Gio, to simply organize something. The very act of organizing something triggers something in the brain that creates the space for you as an entrepreneur to be able to think clearly at all times. And last but not least, consider yourself 100% responsible for everything in the business and create the time and the space to be prospecting all the time. Your paycheck depends on it, and your paycheck depends on those 3 things. So let's open it up. Questions, comments, what is percolating where you are as an entrepreneur, having made the transition or discovering that you haven't quite made it yet?
Yeah, some cool tips, right, Tara? Some cool tips. Continually reinvent ourselves around those tips. That's for sure.
I do have one little question about how you manage something that you said, and it's distractions. My family, they know I work for myself, and I have a very difficult time not taking their calls in the middle of the day. And their little problems distract me even after I'm off the phone. So I'm wondering if you say to your family, like I have the conversations, but then they all forget and they're back like calling me about everything all day, and I got to get better. So coach me, coach.
Thank you, Tara. That's a really good distraction. It's a real distraction. Family is a real distraction, but not like family is a bad distraction. No. It's a distraction for what one is doing at that time, right? Family is not a distraction for life, but it's what you're doing at that very moment, right? So here's what I've discovered in the process, Tara. So I'm going to tell you what I do. It's not what there is to do, but this is what I do. I've noticed that when I send an immediate text back saying, I call you this afternoon, is it urgent? I'll call you tonight, is it urgent? Or I like saying to my mom, I'm in a meeting for the next hour. Can I call you then? I've noticed that if I leave something at that very moment for them, they're completely okay with that. I also work from home, and I also have a 6-year-old, and I have it would be terrible for me to say that she's a distraction of my life, right? But she is distracting me, right? So I do have certain agreements with her, and there are agreements in which she responds to me that she's okay with them. So I don't tell Maya, I need 10 minutes, or I need an hour. Don't come to me until 3 o'clock. I won't tell Maya that. She's not going to respect it. And it's not because she's not respectful. She's a child. But I do say, okay, Maya, I have this I'm going to take care of. I'm going to need about 2 hours. Yeah. Is that okay with you? Can you solve your surrounding for the next 2 hours, either with your mom or with yourself, right? And she tells me, yeah, I can. And then I said, if you need something, of course, please come. And before you say something, raise your hand. And she says, okay. So she does every time when she comes here, she just raises her hand. So she allows me to stop, and then we solve it. It's always very quickly. And then anyway, that's what I do. Yeah.
Thank you. That's very helpful. I like the, is it urgent? I'm going to steal that. I'll report back, let you know how it goes.
Yes, that's what I do all the time. Is it urgent? And they usually say no. And when I call back, they usually already forgot what it was. Yeah. Yeah.
So,
I also,
in your response and in Tara's acknowledgement of your response, I hear that in some way, shape, or form, Tara, that there is a way to talk to the brains of the people who come and interrupt, to leave them whole and minimize, if not eliminate, the distractions.
yeah.
I guess I'm the, what do they call it? The cobbler who has no shoes or something. You're right. Right again.
Yeah. So, I'm discovering that right now. So consider that we're all cobblers, and we're all, walking around barefoot.
Yeah.
And that's okay. That's what's cool about creating a space for discovery. So thank you, Tara. We have time for one more question, Gio. Or one more.
Yes, one more question or comment. Or yeah, but.
Yeah. And hearing none, Gio, you have 30 seconds for the last thing you want to say today on the subject of the 3 critical things to master to make the transition from employee to entrepreneur.
Yes. The one thing I want to say for today is it does not require a special person to make the transition. It does not require. If something is calling you, jump. Just jump.
Gio, permit me to stand on your shoulders and say this. If you think being at work as an employee is an environment where you're being dictated what to do, like it's a dictatorship, well, guess what? Being an entrepreneur is even more of a dictatorship. Consider that when you're an entrepreneur, you are in a kingdom and your opinion doesn't matter.
I love that.
King speaks and the king is your business. So thank you, Gio. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for being here. It's Friday. This is your daily huddle. We're leaving you with our 7+1 tenets. Love. Go out and love. Laugh out loud. As someone making the transition and continuing to make that transition over and over is an access to creating less stress in your life. Continue to make the transition. Eat mostly plant-based. Give of your time. Give yourself the opportunity to rest and sleep. As an entrepreneur, you need it. And move your body. And whenever something's not working as well as you'd like it to, take a look at your assumptions. Check yourself before you wreck yourself. This is your daily huddle for today. We'll be back here again every single day next week and every single day for the rest of time, Monday through Friday. Until then.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Laura. Have a great weekend.
Video, Terrell, wonderful.
Great show. Let's got